Hi, my name is Felicity and I teach 5th grade here at Happy Day School. Come on into my classroom. Welcome to my classroom. I have some time before my students arrive, and I thought I could tell you all about depth of knowledge, or more commonly referred to as DOK. Depth of knowledge is not a new concept. In fact, DOK was actually part of No Child Left Behind. But we were all so busy trying to teach all of the standards before the STAR testing that no one really had time to go into depth on anything. But now, with the Common Core standards, the expectation is that we go into more depth with academic content. And DOK plays a vital role in instructional delivery. DOK provides us with a vocabulary and frame of reference when thinking about our students and how we want them to engage with the content we are teaching. For example, if our expectation is simply that students memorize something, then our lesson delivery will be much different than if we expect them to create something. There are 4 levels of DOK. Let me briefly explain each level to you. Level 1 is recall and reproduction. This level requires a recall of information, such as a fact, a definition, term, or performance of a simple process or procedure. Examples of a few things you might ask your students to do for a DOK Level 1 might be something such as list animals that survive by eating other animals. Or you might ask them to locate or recall facts found in a text, or to determine the perimeter or area of rectangles given a drawing or labels. Answering a Level 1 item can involve following a simple, well-known procedure or formula. Now a Level 2 DOK is going to require something more of our students. DOK Level 2 is about skills and concepts. This includes the engagement of mental processing for your students beyond recall or reproducing a response. Level 2 items may require students to make some decisions about how to approach a question or a problem, and actions may require more than one mental or cognitive process or step. Some examples of DOK2 might be compare and contrast desert and tropical environments, or identify and summarize the major events, problems, solutions, conflicts in a literary text, or explain the cause-effect of historical events. As you can see, students will need to have a much deeper understanding of the content to be successful with Level 2 DOK assignments. Now let's look at Level 3. I'm sure you are seeing the trend here. Each successive level of DOK will require a deeper level of understanding of the content for our students. Level 3 is strategic thinking. This level requires a deep understanding exhibited through planning, using evidence, and more demanding cognitive reasoning. Sometimes there is more than one possible correct answer, and students would be required to defend and justify their answers. Some examples of DOK Level 3 might be solving a multiple-step problem and providing support with a mathematical explanation that justifies the answer, or perhaps developing a scientific model for a complex idea, or maybe explaining, generalize, or connecting ideas using supporting evidence from a text or a source. As you can see, the cognitive demands for DOK Level 3 can be complex and abstract. Now let's look at Level 4. Level 4 is called extended thinking. This level requires high cognitive demand and is very complex. Students are expected to make connections, relate ideas within the content or across content areas, and select or devise one approach among many alternatives on how a situation can be solved. Some examples of Level 4 assignments might be to gather, analyze, organize, and interpret information from multiple sources to draft a reasoned report. Or perhaps you might ask your students to design and conduct an experiment to demonstrate that electrical currents produce magnetic forces. Clearly, your students couldn't do either of those assignments without a deep and clear understanding of the content you are teaching. Because of the nature of DOK Level 4, oftentimes it will require an extended period of time. I think it's important to remember that your goal is not to make everything a DOK Level 4. There is value in all of the DOK levels and a place for all of them in your instruction. And when you do plan for a DOK Level 4, you should use the other levels of DOK to scaffold to the Level 4. I need to walk down to the staff lounge and pick up my attendance roster. Walk with me while I explain more about DOK. Sometimes people think that higher levels of DOK indicate more difficulty, but that isn't true. DOK is about the intended outcome, not difficulty. Consider this. You know that adding is a mental process. Knowing the rules for adding is the intended outcome that influences the DOK level. So if you know the rule for adding, then you can add 4 plus 4. That is a DOK 1, and it is also easy. Once again, if you know the rules for adding, you can add 4,678,895 plus 9,578,885. Now that is a much more difficult problem. But it is still a DOK Level 1 because you are simply applying the rules for adding. And another thing, remember that DOK is not about the verb. It is about what follows the verb. Here's an example. Let's consider the verb describe. If we are using the verb describe for DOK Level 1, we could ask our students to describe 3 characteristics of metamorphic rocks. We can use the same verb, describe, for a DOK Level 2 assignment, and that assignment might be describe the difference between metamorphic and igneous rocks. That's a Level 2 because it requires cognitive processing to determine the difference between the 2 rock types. Students need a much deeper understanding than with an assignment to describe 3 characteristics. And we can use the same verb, describe, for a DOK Level 3. It might be something like this. Describe a model that you might use to represent the relationships that exist within the rock cycle. So I think you can clearly see that it isn't the verb that is important to DOK levels. It's what comes after the verb and the deep level of understanding that students must have to complete the task. Remember when I told you that you should consider using each level of DOK to scaffold to a Level 4? Well, let me give you an example of what that might look like. Let's pretend we are teaching a lesson that incorporates peanut butter and jelly sandwiches into a math lesson. Fun, huh? I am actually doing this lesson with my students today, so you can see what it looks like. The entire lesson will span 2 days. But my students understand the different levels of DOK, so they can see where the lesson will start and where it will finish. For DOK 1, recall and reproduction, students are simply asked to list the ingredients for a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. For DOK 2, skills and concepts, students are asked to collect the ingredients for a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and write the recipe. For DOK 3, Strategic Thinking, students are now asked to investigate how many people are coming to dinner and formulate the appropriate amounts of ingredients for 8 people. For DOK 4, students are now asked to design a plan to feed the entire class using the following information. 1 jar of peanut butter makes 10 sandwiches, 1 jar of jelly serves 8, and 1 loaf of bread contains 17 slices. So, as you can see, that with each subsequent task, students are required to think and understand on a deeper level to be able to complete the task. While peanut butter and jelly is a little lightweight, I think you get the idea. And of course, I think everyone enjoys the end product. Yum! Let me share a chart with you that I created for the teachers on our staff here at Happy Days School that helps us to remember what each level of DOK addresses, and it has sample tasks for each level too. A level 1 might be collecting data samples over time. Remember, simply making a task longer doesn't increase the DOK level. Level 2 might be organizing the data in a chart. Level 3 would be using the chart to make and justify predictions. And Level 4 is developing a generalized model from this data and applying it to a new situation. That's the morning bell. Time to start learning at Happy Days School. It's been great sharing all about DOK with you. Good morning, boys and girls. It's time to get our day started. Can you wave goodbye to my friends before we go into the classroom? See you all next time.